Hello. Jay was actually making, Jonathan Cooey today was making a comment today on his bass. And I have to admit I keep the bass a little bit higher on my setup as well. So sort of like that. What happens with me is I can talk extremely deep, really deep, but I often forget, and I have to really focus on it. And the louder I want to talk, the deeper I can get. The hills are alive with the sound of music, and that's with the bass. Like now, it's on the high side. So, I have to say, I do use the bass. What happens is, as I speak softer, it actually helps me relax my voice a little bit, and then I forget. And if I'm not conscious of it, I can actually slowly start to drift up to a higher range. It is 2:55 p.m. on Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Mark Kulak, Qsatonic.live. And I'm only streaming today on Twitch. It's just a little bit easier. I have realized that I'm not getting the video output quality that when I'm streaming to both YouTube and to Twitch. I'm noticing that sometimes the music will just go silent for a second or two. It's odd. So my setup, I have fiber to the house. Everything's wired. There's no reason why it shouldn't be streaming at a high quality to multiple platforms, or I should say capable, but I don't know why. I've never done it until recently, and I'm not really happy with the way it's working. Today on February 20th, 2025, we're continuing the discussion of Brandy Vaughan. And I'm going to be reviewing there are some corrections and embellishments I want to make to what I said yesterday. I was unaware, and I apologize for this, of not knowing that there were articles written in some outlets such as Salon or Rolling Stone where Robert F. Kennedy was talking about thimerosal and the mercury additives of the vaccines going all the way back to 2005. I did not know that. If it was said and I didn't hear it, I apologize. So I don't know if it changes. In some ways, it does change what I said yesterday because I was asserting, based upon what I knew yesterday, that Kennedy got pulled in because someone else was already having a project called the World Mercury Project. And he might have been dragged in around 14 or 15. Now, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had already written an article, which actually got highlighted even in U.S. Congress in 2005. Well, then that makes that statement null and void. That means I was incorrect yesterday, and again, I apologize. However, in other ways, it further highlights how serious of a disruption Brandy Vaughan was. Because in the course of the 10 years between 2005 and 2015, Robert F. Kennedy did not gain any additional insights or sophistications about vaccines other than focusing on adjuvants, other than focusing on additives. That's 10 years. And, at least from what you can hear publicly, in 2025, we are now talking 2 decades after that initial letter that I'll review. He's still on the additives, and we just want safe vaccines. So for 20 years, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been unable, in spite of what he says, he's a very good researcher, of moving from we need to look at these adjuvants to we need to look at these adjuvants to we need to look at these adjuvants. That's pretty stunning. Now, if you're a layman, if you're a citizen, you're doing your job, you got a million other things going on, I could understand. You're waiting for other people, to provide the research because everyone can't be doing this crap, okay? I understand that, other people. But if you're claiming to be in a position where you're reading the papers and doing the science, 20 years, you should have gotten a little bit more sophisticated. And Brandy Vaughan, in the course of 1 year, went straight to vaccines just don't work, period. I mean, it took her less than a year to start using her own money to start putting up billboards that just said it plainly. In 2015, it took her 1 year, less than 1 year, to get to that conclusion and then to start putting up billboards. And 20 years later, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has still not really gotten any further. I would like to say that I don't think he is a dim person. I don't know how super intelligent he is. I mean, it's on camera that I've talked with him. I represent. This brings me no joy to say it. This is not bragging, but it's the truth. I represent the totality of all people on the planet that have publicly talked about the massive problems of drug overdoses in the United States publicly with RFK Jr. I represent the totality of all people on the planet that have publicly talked on camera and mentioned Sina Bavari to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I and I alone. And it was the last question on the first Children's Health Defense Conference. I mentioned the story of Danielle, who had died unnecessarily, remdesivir, although I suspect her condition worsened in the hospital rapidly at some point, probably because of oxygen use. Now, I don't want to step where I shouldn't be stepping, but I know that that's a pattern that I've seen with other people, such as Scott Schar's daughter, Grace. Okay. And the point being is, well, I mean, how did RFK not advance? He by the way, he really didn't answer the question. He kind of deflected. But whatever the case, and Brandy Vaughan got there like within a year. I'll show you the video where she highlights her own billboard and how clearly it stated it. It didn't say, hey, we should slow down on mandatory vaccines because there's a possibility that some of the adjuvants are causing autism. What she said was, all vaccines are unsafe, period. That was it. Don't do them. Now, I am going to get into that. I also wanted to say first, and I hope I have enough time to get into this evidence here, is there's something about the Brandy Vaughan story and why Jonathan Cooey and myself are talking a lot about it is because Jonathan and I have both seen a lot of ugliness, more than I've ever shared publicly, about how serious and how bad and scary at times this controlled opposition machine, how it works. It never would I have imagined how people weave into your life. They start contacting family members. They want to show up to parties. They want to. They call you on holidays. They get close. They'll reimburse you for something, and then they'll want to control how you feel or what you say. It's nasty. It's really bad. Now, regarding the stuff that like a Whitney Webb will talk about, I've never seen anything like that. Okay, I don't know. I have big doubts that the whole method of influence operations like that on an everyday person like me and how serious they are, I don't know. But I will say that it's very scary, and it becomes very personal. And I can actually hear a Brandy Vaughan and multiple times using words that I feel like I would be saying. And I don't think anyone else has really voiced it so as clearly, other than perhaps a Jonathan Cooey or actually this other person that was recorded, Tina Marie. Marie's not her actual last name, regarding Brandy Vaughan. And it's very rare that we've heard someone else who can articulate it. And I can see how other people reacted to Brandy Vaughan saying, look, you got to stop complaining about everybody. I mean, look, someone's doing something. At least Bobby's talking about the adjuvants. Give the guy a break. Not that she was publicly saying anything about Robert F. Kennedy Jr., but you can see how she was just attacked for being so negative and so foul and saying people were lying. And she's the healthiest person in that picture, and she's the only person that's dead right now. I don't know what else to say. And I feel that's the language that's been used against me. That's certainly the language that's been used against Jonathan Cooey. So we are going through a phase where we can identify with someone that was attacked relentlessly by many people. And I found it amazing. It was illuminating yesterday that in Jonathan Cooey's chat, now people are mad. They're calling out this one woman, Tina, as a bad apple because she supposedly, possibly took some money that was meant for the investigation of Brandy Vaughan. I'm like, look, you've had 5 effing years to even mention the name Brandy Vaughan. You never have. And now suddenly you think the biggest villain in the world is the person that's trying to, raise money for an investigation? Are you kidding me? It's so clear who you can't trust. It's a lightning rod of a word, Brandy Vaughan. Some people can say it. I found a 2015 video of Melissa Dykes, I forget her husband's name, I apologize, of Truth Stream Media. Even they were talking about Brandy Vaughan at that time. Now, I don't know if they did a video upon her death, but either way, you can see how few people, how many other people in alternative media they didn't just say Brandy Vaughan like once, in 2020, all the people are getting murdered and never mentioned again. How many of them have consistently said the name and said, gee, she got it right? She didn't spend 20 years saying we just need to research the adjuvants and we just want safe vaccines. She just said it. She said it outright. Billboard. I read somewhere that she came upon an inheritance, and I don't know who that was. I know her mother died in 2005. By the way, her mother died in 2005 at age 47. How do you die at age 47? I wouldn't even be surprised. And she's never said this, so I'm just throwing this one out there. I wouldn't even be surprised if her mom died because of a misused, mislabeled, inadequately prescribed pharmaceutical. I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe not directly. It could have been something that happened at a younger age, and then there was a cascade of events. I don't know. Either way, she had some inheritance, which is what she was able to use to fund a lot of her operations. Now, I wouldn't say it was a billionaire. She wasn't a billionaire. But, if you can pay off your house, have your rent covered, get a used car, you could go a long time. If you can just, get a few hundred there, 1,000 there. extract from your inheritance, and then so she put her money where her heart was. Anyways, I want the reasons why we found her and we are excited to learn about her and we're evangelizing her is the fact that she and she alone, up until that time, was saying it directly and clearly. The fact that no one else has bothered to even mention her and to continue the legacy. Obviously, all of these people have made a decision to bury her legacy. The fact that our audiences are furious, some people, that we dare to suggest her name, bring it up, or suggest that the person that wanted an investigation may not be a bad person. They're furious. It's awesome. I love it. I love it. The sunlight is, the clouds are breaking and the sun is shining. By the way, I prefer it personally. I'm a cloudy weather person, but I like the analogy of just the sun is just beaming right now. And the fog is just burning. It's burning up. It's awesome. And it's someone we feel as though we can identify with. Unfortunately, we can't talk to her. All we can do is learn about her. And the way I'm going to show just how awful it was is one of the I would say among the worst. I've never mentioned this name before. Among the worst fake anti-vaxxers out there is a guy named Larry Cook, who went so far as to date Brandy Vaughan in 2016. And then he became the focus of her scorn as a controlled operative, as he set up sites and basically found ways to take money which was trying to be sent to her. Larry Cook right now will still never mention Brandy Vaughan. Larry Cook cried victim on only a week and a half before Brandy Vaughan's death because his Facebook page of Stop the Mandatory Vaccines was censored on Facebook. And to this day, he's still being promoted. And Larry Cook then went on to associate his anti-vaccine stance with, I shit you not, QAnon. And now we're right back to, oh, that's right. Wasn't that Thomas Schoenberger was accused by some of being the source of QAnon? I don't know if he actually is or isn't. But that's not my statement that thousands or millions have thought that he was QAnon. That's the internet's what's saying. And I don't think he or the people around him have really done a good job at dispelling that myth. So now everyone that has dared questioning vaccines, instead of seeing Brandy Vaughan, hearing about Brandy Vaughan's story, seeing the billboards that she said that were so direct, hearing about how she was being victimized by controlled ops, people breaking into her house. Ultimately, she died. There never was an investigation. What they hear is Larry Cook and QAnon. What they hear is Thomas Schoenberger and QAnon. What they hear is Brett Weinstein talking about ivermectin and telomeres and crap. What they hear is all of the other nonsense. None of them will say Brandy Vaughan. On the topic of you want to hear a little bit of truth, not one person that I know of, aside from maybe Jonathan Cooey, who has a microphone, maybe Joe Marshall as well, there's maybe a couple of others I don't know about. Really, I have to say, Really Graceful has voiced this before, but I don't think she had enough data to really take it to the full conclusion. Nobody has just said, the methods that were being used to determine the numbers of deaths in the Spanish flu are highly flawed. It's a massively overinflated number, and it most likely can be explained through sanitation, through cohabitation and residency with animals that were being used during World War II, with experimental vaccines, with a drought that was happening in India, And when you look at totality of the deaths, it's probably around 5 million or less that could actually be associated with influenza-like symptoms. And somehow that became 50 million and said to be a virus. In fact, there were, more shooters than you can shake a stick at. John Cullen is basically Anthony Fauci's boy by promoting everything that Fauci wants you to hear. Oh yeah, someone dug up the frozen Indian corpses in Alaska, and then they went on to do the gain of function flu virus, and oh yeah, I found evidence that there was a lab leak in 2018, and that proves that it's really all gain of function viruses. Come on. Anyways, the nature of these operators are so bad that they will woo you into bed. That's how awful it is. And then they will share pictures online of your heroism. They will become your best friend. They will become your closest supporter. They will send you money, early on when you need it. And then the knife comes out and stabs you in the back. When you're so close that they can slit your throat and you don't even know you're bleeding. That's exactly how it happens. Again, fortunately, I'm alive and healthy. But I've seen how close I might have come. So, with that said, let me have a sip here. Sorry. Okay. Let me refresh this page, and let me say hi to you guys real quick before I start doing some reading. Hello. Oh, first timer. Portable. Cheap viewers. Huh. Well, how about we let's see here. Portable Monica. I don't need to hear that. I'm going to ban that. If there's any such thing, seeing as investigating research, yeah, I thank you for the kind words. I guess I'm an investigator. I don't know. I mean, I'm still, the only thing that I differ between is journaling and archiving, and I guess there's analysis. So I guess I do analysis and I do archiving. It honestly takes a certain lifestyle and budget to actually go out, to leave the house and to journal. It doesn't happen freely. You need to be young, you need to be untethered, or you need to have resources. So that's one thing I don't do. So when people, for example, in Massachusetts go to the State House, and they record and they view and so on, they create evidence that I can source from. Now, many journalists then go on to, analyze and investigate and so on. So, but I'm still kind of more on the archival side. But there's no excuse for the fact that there's so much out there that hasn't really been assessed. I like what Jonathan Cooey said yesterday. This isn't. It's most of what I present it's out there. It's open source. It's not always, right out in front. You have to sneak around a little bit, or I should say you have to look. You have to, use various search engines and so on, but it's out there. So, while I'm thankful that I can do this. It's also it's unfortunate that there aren't a lot more sources to use. You know, and I don't know why there aren't. You know, I don't know why there's not more channels. You know, I would love to be able to just turn on a channel and listen to other people reading these articles and going through it and highlighting, you know, the connections, and then, you know, boiling it down to what does it really mean? You know, what's really going on here? Throw out some speculation. Okay, you know, what's it all about? And more people could do it, but maybe one of the reasons why that doesn't happen is because, you know, it can be a little more dry. I'm not into the sensational stuff, and there's not really a paycheck here. And again, that might be another thing that I can identify with Brandy Vaughan on. Okay, if it wasn't for the fact that she had an inheritance, and I must say, I only know that because of a blog post, a very long blog post from Larry Cook, who dated her for a while, and then trolled her. But she was using her money, and I can totally identify with it. Do you think that I've been able to buy a studio because of? Look, I've had some people send me, you know, nice checks, or some cash, some gifts in the P.O. box, and so on, or on PayPal. You know, I thank people like Christy and John and Pamela and. My goodness, there's a couple of other names, you know, Juan recently and so on. But you know, I've had to use my resources. Now, I don't have an inheritance. I had a good job for 20 years, and I've been able to leverage that, you know, and at the very least, you know, not have to burn everything I have doing this. But she was using her resources as well. She didn't have a $20 million a year organization. Somehow, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. took World Mercury Project and made it a $20 or $30 million organization in 3 years. $30 million! Do you get $30 million a year from Substacks and Super Chats and selling T-shirts? No, I'm sorry, you don't. Now, I think that's... Now, I don't know if that's $30 million in total revenue, or I'm sure it's not $30 million in I would say income over expenses, but that's not. I don't see how that could be possible otherwise. And in spite of having $30 million a year, I don't think Children's Health Defense has put up a single billboard that said, "Look, just stop. Don't take these shots. Don't take the shots anymore." They never did it. She used her inheritance to do it and said it plainly and got there in 1 year. You know, I will show the video here. Let's see here. Let me close down that over here. Escape. And excuse me. Again, I don't have all these things queued up, so I will have to go to my page. Let's go to the Brandy Vaughan. And Brandy Vaughan, of course, started Know the Risks. Know the Risks. No, learntherisks.org. Learntherisks.org. VAUGHAN. And Learn the Risks is still, fortunately, available on YouTube. Now, the only reason Learn the Risks is still on YouTube and there's still a learntherisks.org is because she entrusted these assets with that woman named Tina Marie, who was scorned by several people for daring to want to raise money for an additional investigation. Just saying. So if you look at the videos here, let's see here, videos oldest. This is from Look, this only has a total of 120 views. How sad is that? 120 views, and it's from early 2016. Learn the risk, San Francisco Bay Bridge billboard. Vaccines do more harm than good.
Thousands of people pass over the Bay Bridge every day. 1 million per week. And they see this. Please support our awareness campaign at learntherisk.org.
And that's her voice. She's videoing it, and it says vaccines do more harm than good. Every shot. Let me see here. Let's see if I can zoom in here. Every shot contains toxic something or other. I can't read it. It's a little blurry. Learntherisk.org. So using her own money within 1 year, because she was so frustrated at the mandatory vaccine laws, she wanted to keep her son unvaccinated. Okay. She knew about the history of the pharmaceuticals or the quality anyways from Merck. She had a billboard up. And within 20 years, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is still stuck on, we just need to test it so that we have safe vaccines. 20 years. He has not advanced. 20 years. He has not advanced at all. How could you be mad at someone for saying that Bobby isn't advancing it when the evidence shows in 20 years he hasn't advanced it? We're making the statement here, and Brandy was even making the statement that it's run by controlled operatives. Tina Marie, who was trying to raise money and scorned for wanting to raise money for more investigation of the death of Brandy Vaughan. She was saying that there's the controlled opposition is people wanting safe vaccines. And look at the record. The man, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who over the course of 20 years kept stepping in front or being pushed in front of people just wanting safe vaccines, almost became vice president of the United States and is now the director of Health and Human Services and has control over more money than anyone else in the United States government, or at least in the executive branch. While Brandy Vaughan got a billboard up in 1 year and is now dead and never mentioned. Imagine if Bobby said, look, I learned a lot from this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in his hearing, okay? Look, I worked a lot with this Brandy Vaughan. We were side by side in the World Health Organization paper. We were in, countless Zoom calls together. She was a force to be reckoned with. I'm so honored I met her. Her death was so sudden and unexpected. I wish some people would look at it. And it was just great to be working with this ferocious woman who, even used her own money to get these signs up. Did he say anything like that? Did he ever even mention her existence? In fact, I have a personal reason to already have feel that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did not do this by accident or is so weak, because I saw Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in person on the day he announced he was running for president in Boston. I was in only several rows back, sitting between Jonathan Cooey and John Bodwin, who that morning was having bagels with Meryl Nass and Meryl Nass's best friend, Abigail Rockefeller. Anyways, and matter of fact, Abigail Rockefeller and Meryl Nass sat behind me. That's hilarious. Anyways, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who supposedly, I know anyways, struggled with addiction, used a massive number of drugs, recreational, early in his life. I'm happy that he's trying to remove the stigma of drug use, but he went 2 hours without once mentioning the drug epidemic in the United States. 2 hours he talked about chronic illness. Well, chronic illness means you're ill, and ill means not dead. I don't know how fine a point to put on it, but being chronically ill is bad because you're a drain on society as far as health goes, because you can't work, because your family wants to see you healthy, because you can't parent. But worse than that are people that are dead. And he didn't mention it. And, as it turns out, over the last, 4 years, 21 to 24, the United States had nearly 500,000 fatal drug overdoses. And, how does someone who is now the director of Health and Human Services not mention how 1 out of every 30 deaths happened in the United States over a 4-year period? How is that even possible? I don't know how that's possible. And equally disappointing is the United States Congress, Senate, none of them having what it takes to bring that up either. Now, some people mention, I think there might have been the word addiction mentioned once or twice, but that's it. Very, very disappointing. So either Bobby is so weak that he was told, don't mention Brandy Vaughan, and don't mention a drug epidemic, and he went along with it. That's pretty bad. Or he's too stupid to identify how serious of these things are, and he still hasn't advanced the narrative. He still is stuck on, well, we just need safer vaccines. That's exactly what Tina Marie was saying. That's exactly what Brandy Vaughan was saying, is that we need to stop arguing for safer vaccines, because you can't make them safe. That's the problem. The article that I have is let's see here. Let me go back to this monitor over here. She was on. I found a lot of old videos, a lot of pretty impressive things here, and you're going to see me sharing more and more stuff here. It's an article that is actually not related. It doesn't actually mention her name at all. It was from 2000 and it's this one. It was actually in the Washington Post. So Washington Post in July 18th of 2015, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s beliefs in autism vaccine connection. Actually, I mistyped it. It's 2014. I'm sorry. An autism vaccine connection and its political peril. And I might read that. But what I also have is, if you go to the index, you can probably get it by just going up to books. And the paper is called Deadly Immunity. And Deadly Immunity, it's an essay that was in Salon and Rolling Stone in 2005. Now, the 2005 article in Rolling Stone is deleted. You can find, there's a Wikipedia page that highlights Deadly Immunity. I was impressed by that. Wikipedia, Deadly Immunity. Whoops. This article actually has its own Wikipedia page. Deadly Immunity is an article written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. that appeared in its July 14th, 2005 issue of Rolling Stone and simultaneously on the website Salon. The article is focused on the 2000 Simpsonwood CDC conference that claims that thimerosal-containing vaccines caused autism, as well as the theory that government health agencies have colluded with pharma to hide the risks of thimerosal in public. The article had originally been fact-checked and published in print by Rolling Stone, but posted online by Salon. The article was retracted by Salon on January 16, 2011, in response to criticisms of the article as inaccurate. And then there's the reactions, and then the retractions, etc. So you can read that. And in fact, I'm not going to read it now, but at some point I think I'm going to want to read it into the record. So this definitely contradicts what I said yesterday. It means that he was pulled into it pretty early on. But he's, and I can understand someone thinking this at one point in time. But given the fact that he knew Brandy Vaughan, given how many people that RFK Jr. has known, 10 years later, he's still saying, well, thimerosal, we need to test it. And then 10 years after that, he's now Health and Human Services Director, and he still wants safe vaccines. At what point are you just going to, can you move on? Can you see the failure that this is exactly what they want you to talk about? The reason people are being, and to maybe to best appreciate it, you need to take a few steps back and try to understand why people are being vaccinated. Do you really think that this vaccine industrial complex exists to make money? I gave people a thought experiment a year or two ago or three, and I said, look, and of course this is totally hypothetical, okay, or speculative. It wouldn't happen, but let's say that we could have the United States government give $1 trillion a year to Merck, $1 trillion to Moderna, $1 trillion to Pfizer. And all they have to do is nothing. Let's give those, a matter of fact, what they have to do is to stop making vaccines. $1 trillion a year, and all you need to do is keep the money. You'll make more money, and you'll be more profitable than you ever imagined and that you ever possibly could be if you simply did nothing. How could the board of directors say no to that? However, the reality is that wouldn't fly. It's a thought experiment. Because although the mission of those companies is to make money, the vaccine industrial complex does not exist to make money. The vaccine industrial complex also does not exist to kill people, in spite of what Judy Mikovits says. The vaccine industrial complex is part of the machinery of using the human population for medical experimentation to advance knowledge of the human genome. That is why it exists. Adjuvants are not put in vaccines to kill people. They are possibly put into vaccines as a conversation and distraction topic. The vaccine industrial complex exists to use the human population for the purposes of medical experimentation and data collection. You have to see that. If you think it's about the money, you're not getting it. You're misinterpreting it. Along the way, along the journey, it's understandable to see that. But it's really not about that. Let's look back on the history. It was widely understood and generally believed that up until the 1930s or 1940s, vaccines were a major cause of increased life expectancy amongst many people. Now, there were plenty of skeptics, but it was generally widely understood and accepted that they really did work. There really wasn't even a lot of work in brainwashing people that they worked, because you saw more vaccines, you saw more people living to old age. Yeah, you saw a lot of kids dying weirdly, suddenly as infants, but more vaccines, more people, longer lives. It was a very simple thing to see, and it was happening at the same time that sanitation was improving, food quality is improving, and so many other things. And then in World War II, the mandatory vaccinations, at least amongst the U.S. military and probably several other countries, were spectacular failures. And they caused an enormous number of injuries and incapacitated soldiers. It was yellow fever vaccines. Now, because of the number of quantity of hepatitis and so on, they had to immediately halt them and figure out what was going on. And then, amongst the inner circles, there was some realizations like, holy shit, and I apologize, I have to use these words right now. We're getting a lot of insight because of how these things are failing. And by the end of World War II, a whole school of thought popped up that vaccines and the genetic material that in them are giving us insights into how the machinery of life works. That's the transition that happened behind the scenes, and that knowledge was even being collected within the Manhattan Project. Right out of the gate, they said, wow, we need to get people more interested in vaccines. The Salk polio vaccine came out, which might have actually been mostly placebos. Who knows? But that was an enormous campaign to get people on board with getting vaccinated because the decision was made. And I am starting to speculate that it was so dark and ugly that the Jewish prisoners and many Christians as well, and Germany and Poland, that were being scheduled for relocation to Madagascar and elsewhere, were actually used experimentally. The whole idea of the final solution didn't come out until after the failure of the yellow fever vaccine. You can see a lot of things coming together right now. And now when you see these scientists coming out of Germany and Poland through the Vatican, through Brazil, and then moving back up the United States, such as Hillary Kaprowski, possibly conduits using the Vatican to get medical experimentation data out of Germany and into the United States and Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Research Center, it all starts to make sense. It's never really been about the money. It's about knowing the only way you can advance knowledge of the machinery of life and get to the point where you can augment life and extend life, maybe, is to have humans available for medical experimentation and data collection. And the only way that will ever happen is if, one, well, you can create slaves and have them live in a box like a monkey, but that can't happen. Or two, you have people roll up their sleeves and welcome the opportunity to get vaccinated and even beg for it. Now, I don't even know how I got onto this topic, but understanding that is so important, because then you can start to reconcile what's really motivating these things, right? Anyways, and I guess that goes back to the adjuvants. If you think we can get safer vaccines if we just fix the adjuvants, that's a bullshit argument. There's no other way of saying it. And the reason it's bull is because that's an argument that was engineered for people to have and to get excited about. Because they're not just throwing this crap in there, to harm people or to make more money or to create how would you say, a profit center so that more people are sick. No. It's so that people argue about that instead of saying, These suckers are just these monsters are just using the human population for medical experimentation. They're getting insights into how the human genome works, how we express proteins, how we react to cancers, and how we age by injecting people with foreign genetic material and then understanding how the immune system operates and responds to those different codes. There you go. Now, would you want the general public to ever say that and understand that? No. Instead, you want people saying, well, we just need to get rid of the mercury. We just need to make them cleaner. We just need to work on the cold storage. We just need to make them, we just need to break out, take the MMR and break it out. We just need to change the schedule. We just need to test it a little bit more. And there's a million other excuses. But what's really happening is humans are being used to collect data on. They are getting insights on how the machinery of life works by injecting foreign code into people and assessing the responses. Now, the sophistication of that right now, I think, is still very minimal. However, the insights, even the idea that there could be insights to be gained by this, really didn't exist until during and after World War II. Guess what? Suddenly, the whole idea of DNA and Francis and Crick's work, it all came out right after that. Is it really any coincidence that almost the entire model of genetics, of how molecular biology works, happened right after World War II? Max Delbruck and all these other people during World War II. As a matter of fact, the leader of the United States, one of the leaders of the weapons program of the Manhattan Project, Leo Szilard, actually set up the Salk Center in California. What are the odds of that unless it's always been about trying to find ways to use humans for medical experimentation? Without them understanding it, without them knowing the risks, without them immediately gaining, should there be any harm. I believe, I think Jonathan Cooey may believe this as well, that the quantity of data that was needed to potentially advance this knowledge, I don't think they thought that there would be as much diversity between people after World War II as they understand there to be now. I suspect that they thought that, you collect enough genetic data, you observe enough people, and eventually you're going to learn enough about DNA and cancer and et cetera that we're going to start to really see things change. And eventually they realized that there is this word, and I love it, from the legal ruling in 2023. There's a galactic diversity of people out there, and genomes and gene expression and so on, and antibodies and proteins. So you need more. So at the moment, the best that they can do is to say, we're just going to collect everything. We're going to collect the data on everything. And at some point, maybe, we'll have enough computers to figure it out. I think that's the hopes at some point. So, I'm sorry to go down this path, but I think it's important to understand that big picture, okay? And because that big picture should highlight how ridiculously absurd it is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in 2005 wrote this groundbreaking article about deadly immunity and we need to research thimerosal, not talking about the basic idea of vaccination itself. And then 10 years later, he's showing up at these screenings with this Eric Galen, I think, or Gladden, and his movie Trace Amounts, talking about, thimerosal. And then he's on the a Bill Maher show talking about the additives. And then he's at the vaccine rallies talking about the additives. And then he's standing side by side with Brandy Vaughan talking about the additives. And then Brandy Vaughan is dead. Then he's talking about the DNA contamination and the additives. And then at the Senate hearings in 2025, 20 years after writing Deadly Immunity, he's still saying in United States Senate in front of the world, we just need to test it and have safe vaccines and figure out if there's any problems or autism causing additives. He has advanced his knowledge absolutely not at all. He had a chance to work with Brandy Vaughan. He had a chance to work with Brian Hooker. He had a chance to work with Jonathan Cooey. And he hasn't advanced where he is at all. Not one single step. And now I'm being told he's done more for healthy Americans than anyone else has in 20 years? Really? Why? Because he's going to listen to Food Babe and get some coloring out of Fruit Loops? He's gonna get people to realize that Twinkies are unhealthy? Come on. Everybody that eats a Twinkie knows it's unhealthy. And as a matter of fact, they enjoy it because it's unhealthy. So this is an article to read, and I think the Washington Post article is also a good article to read. But I think that the story that I really wanted to highlight today is, I don't know if it's a story or not, but let's go to Brandy Vaughan's page, because there I have the link, VAUGHAN. There I have the link. Okay. So Jonathan Cooey the other day played a video where Brandy Vaughan in the year 2018, I think, was voicing her frustration. She said it's a video she didn't want to do, and she was talking about controlled operatives. She was talking about how people were hijacking her message, and she was visibly upset. All right. And she actually talked about a guy named Larry Cook. Now, Larry Cook weaved his way into Brandy Vaughan's life, and in fact, at least according to the hand gesture here, and the hugging, I think that they actually dated for a while. Okay, so Larry Cook starts to show up at the rallies, and then Larry Cook probably says, "Let's go out to dinner." And then Larry Cook calls her on the birthday. Then Larry Cook, starts sharing tweets, about, wow, look at the amazing work that she's doing. And then Larry Cook shares the billboards. Wow, look at the work that this amazing person is doing. And then Larry Cook, shows up upon the billboards being defaced. Says, wow, isn't this so sad? I love my friend, Brandy Vaughan, okay? And then little by little, at some point, there's billboards popping up in the Philadelphia area that are starting to steer the money in the direction of Larry Cook and not learntherisk.org. So Larry Cook's thing is stop mandatory vaccination. Larry Cook's mission thing didn't exist. Now, Larry Cook, up until today, you can still find him on Twitter. His message hasn't advanced at all. Matter of fact, he can sell remedies for the spike protein. He is totally on board with gain-of-function virus narrative, Larry Cook is, even though he's supposedly anti-vaccine. You can find, let's see, I got too many tabs open right now. I need to start closing a few things down so it's easier to find, okay? If you go to 2019, I just found this one today. This is awesome. This is from November 18th, 2020. Larry Cook got a lot of visibility because he was kicked off of Facebook for being an anti-vax grifter who preys on parents, suggesting any childhood death is due to vaccines. Well, first off, Brandy Vaughan was trying to say that it was the pharma companies that were getting rich, and they were and she was highlighting all of these deaths based upon vaccines. Oh, by the way, Brandy Vaughan dies unexpectedly in her bathroom 2 weeks after this. I wonder how Larry Cook celebrated that moment or identified that moment. Because up until today, Larry Cook is selling you remedies for the spike protein, just like Peter McCullough. And if anything, is willing to just badmouth Brandy Vaughan as, bad person. What I think Brandy Vaughan misses, though, in Brandy Vaughan in her video regarding Larry Cook, okay, Brandy Vaughan is making the mistake of, in that video, of thinking that Larry Cook is doing it for the money. And I see this as this is something that I think I'm uniquely qualified to see. And I think Jonathan Cooey right now is uniquely qualified to see. Larry Cook is not in this for the money. Larry Cook, I suspect, is already totally funded to do what he's doing. Larry Cook's job is to ask for money to look legitimate, and probably even more importantly, to ask for money so it doesn't go to Brandy Vaughan. Most of the people that will attack me, if they even have the courage to publicly attack me, okay, and make thousands or tens of thousands of dollars a month on Substack, they're not out there to get money. Their job is to get more money that could otherwise help me make an income from this. You see, there are probably about 50 people lined up against Jonathan Cooey. Do you know how much money, how many millions of dollars that is? Millions of dollars. And they all are being well funded for doing whatever it is that they're doing. Their job is to diffuse. Their job is to absorb, and their job is to take whatever scraps they can away from Jonathan Cooey and to starve him. Hopefully, that's the goal. The more people you have taking more money, the better. Every dollar that you can take out of Jonathan Cooey's pocket, a guy who's trying to raise, with a family with 3 kids, is basically worth probably $100 to $1,000 to them. Okay, it's almost like bonus money. So she's not quite understanding this, and I'm not sure if Brandy Vaughan figured this out before she died. But Larry Cook's job is not to grift to get money. I promise you, even if Larry Cook was trying to get some money by taking it from Brandy Vaughan, first off, she wasn't even able to make a real income from it. So how much money could he possibly get? Larry Cook could have made more money working 2 days a week as a Walmart greeter or at McDonald's, and then take the other 5 days and do whatever he wants, than he could working full-time trying to grift money away from Brandy Vaughan. In other words, he's not doing it for the money. He's doing it only in the sense of trying to take away every dollar and every little bit of oxygen that he could possibly take from Brandy Vaughan. And that includes stressing her out and making her mad. That's the goal. If someone were to attack me or grift from that, they're not doing it to get rich. And that's why I don't use the word grifter. I never use the word grifter. Maybe I have in the past. I never use the word grifter because that to me is that should sound like I'm suggesting that people are doing this for the money. They're not. That's why I don't use the word grifter, because nobody out there is grifting. They're not doing it because they can't make more money doing other things. They're doing it to take resources and time and energy away from the few people that are actually trying to do it the right way. If someone can take away 5 minutes of my time on an angry email, if they can take away 2 minutes of my time with an angry tweet, if they can take away an hour of my energy or my spirit with something else, if they can take away $2 of Patreon money, though the totality of those things are what will slow me down and destroy me. I don't use the word grift. Anyone that says grift is actually perpetuating a misunderstanding of how this works. Anyways, it also highlights how close someone will get. I mean, as close as you, that's as intimate and as close as you can get. Isn't that scary? Someone will become your boyfriend, be your boyfriend or girlfriend, and even have sex with you, and then probably want to give birthday gifts to your kids before they start stabbing you in the back and draining you. That's how sick this stuff is. Do you think he did that because he was grifting? No. Every date he had with her, every 2-hour phone call, wasting her time on the phone, talking about what's going on. And I've had this happen to me. People would become my friends. They would want to contact my wife. They would want to contact extended family members. They would want to friend me on Facebook. Then they want to call me and talk about problems with their families. They would call me and waste an hour or 2 hours and just slow me down talking about nonsense. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? What are you going to do about this? Drain energy, drain time. Okay? That is what they're there for. Can you imagine that? And I can see it. Fortunately, I live with the love of my life, you know? Imagine if I were single and doing this. Imagine. All it would take would be, a girlfriend. And then, problems. And then drama. Think of how that could slow me down. Do you think it's any coincidence that Jonathan Cooey and myself are both happily married long time in our ability to do as much as we do? It's no coincidence. It's because that angle of getting in and taking so much time doesn't exist with us. And thank goodness. Wow. So this is actually Larry Cook's blog. It's called StopMandatoryVaccination.com. Larry Cook rebukes Brandy Vaughan's character assassination. And I'll read his words, okay? Brandy Vaughan is a vaccine choice anti-vaccination activist running www.learntherisk.org. Right off the bat, he misinterprets her message. Look, I haven't read this. I promise you, I haven't read this yet. The very first sentence, he's already bullshit. Vaccine choice, no. Her message was, let's look at the billboard here, okay? You don't believe me? Let's look at that billboard again. What did Brandy's billboard say? Let's see here.
Thousands of people pass over the Bay Bridge every day. 1 million per week. And they see this. Please support our awareness campaign at learntherisk.org.
Vaccines do more harm than good. Sounds like a vaccine choice advocate to me. No, it doesn't. Vaccine choice is really that's the stumbling block. you're already off to the wrong argument, vaccine choice. That's what Children's Health Defense. We just need vaccine choice and safer vaccines. Upon her death, which no one would talk about at Children's Health Defense, I guess. They can't even spell the name right on their webpage. Upon her death, her friend Tina Marie, that is now being scorned as a bad person for wanting a further investigation of the death. Heaven forbid. Tina Marie was saying that the controlled opposition wants people to argue about vaccine choice. Vaccine choice, safe vaccines. Right there. There you go. It's already the wrong argument. And right off the bat, this Larry Cook is applying the wrong position. Now, even by putting vaccine choice, if he said anti-vaccination / vaccine choice, well, first off, that wouldn't make any sense. And anti-vaccination, even that phrase, anti-vaccination, it's a weird. If vaccination always does more harm than good, I don't know. You know what? Am I an anti-pouring molten lead down the throat advocate? Why would someone have to say something like that? So even he is sort of supporting the pro-vaccine arguments here, and it's awful. So he spells out the site, learntherisk.org, at least he says that. And on May 15th, 2018, Brandy launched a vicious and reprehensible hour-long Facebook video. Jonathan Cooey shared this the other day, at least the early part of it. You can still find the whole thing on BitChute. Facebook video character assassination on me. And then on May 15th, 2018, Brandy posted a second live Facebook video where she justified her character assassination. This isn't the first time Brandy Vaughan has worked to destroy a reputation in the vaccine choice anti-vaccination movement. A couple of years ago, Brandy regularly criticized numerous activists she didn't disagree with, including well-known ones, by publicly and privately, quote, calling them out on, quote, and or calling them controlled opposition as ways to destabilize people's perceptions of these activists. So right there, this is Larry Cook standing up for these statements that you need to be quiet about the people that are on your team. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is fighting for us. He wants to research the adjuvants. He just wants safer vaccines. You little witch, Brandy Vaughan, you were just calling out these people that were saying we need to stop talking about safe vaccines. That was just your idea, Brandy Vaughan. Brandy Vaughan, you just got to go along with all these other people's. You need to sell a spike remedy a remedy for spike protein someday. You need to start saying ivermectin can cure foot and mouth disease and cancer and baldness and give women larger breasts or something. You need to stop having this such a laser sharp focus on the fact that vaccines don't work, Brandy Vaughan. And this is what I've been told. Hey, you know what? At least Robert Malone is saying the vaccines might be bad. Really? The difference at this time, difference this time around, though, is not that only had I personally given Brandy huge amounts of support. Oh my goodness! This is exactly how people have spoken to me. Mark, I've given you support and love. Why do you return it with such hostility and lack of thankfulness? I've given to you. I've retweeted you before. Why don't you love me and trust me? You monster. This is exactly, I swear to God, this is exactly how some people have spoken to me privately in messages. We've lost together. I've lost just as much as you. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not sure there's going to be a show that I ever do again and don't say the name Brandy Vaughan. I think that's why. And I'm going to make, and that word you're going to see is radioactive. It's going to be as dangerous a word as anyone thought of. It's why no one at CHD will say it. They can't even spell the name right. It's that dangerous. I can identify with it. We also dated for a period of time. We have not spoken by text, phone, email, or Facebook Messenger for approximately 18 months. That's interesting. So he reached out to her really early. There's pictures of him showing up at her booth at the Learn the Risk, learntherisk.org booth at certain events. And now he's crying victim because he was censored, and somehow or another he makes his living. How does anyone have time to spend so many hours a day on Twitter? How does anyone do it? Okay, if you're retired, maybe. Because if you're spending time on Twitter, aside from a few people who have very small audiences, you're not really advancing any research. You're just evangelizing, and you're not making money. Where does the money come from? Well, I'll tell you what. All someone needed to do is give Larry Cook some information, for example, about a company like Cytidine, which had its SEC investigation dropped for a mere $35,000 by the wife of Peter Strzok in early 2019, and advise Larry Cook over a Signal chat to buy, I don't know, maybe $10,000 in Cytidine at the end of 2019, and that $10,000 would be worth basically $500,000 by the end of 2020, and then he could sell it. That's all that was needed to give Larry Cook all the money he needs to pay off the house and then to operate freely. Everything else you make on top of that's gravy. So, of course, it is disheartening to see Brandy. Let's continue with what Larry Cook says. So, of course, it's disheartening to see Brandy Vaughan present such a perversion and inversion of the truth, distortion of reality, timeline confusion, and extreme emotional hostility. Wow. I love how you see the meltdown and the woe is me, crying for tears, I'm so persecuted language of a crying weak liberal always come through of people that at sometimes start waving the flag, say, I found Jesus again, and I'm a right-wing extremist. Suddenly, they sound like any other weak, limp, emotional, woe is me liberal. And I mean liberal in the negative sense right now. Awesome. Always happens. She wants me to leave the vaccine choice anti-vaccine movement. No, she doesn't. First of all, she's not on vaccine choice. She never was. Right before we stopped talking, Brandy was very frustrated that my work and brand was receiving a lot of attention and donations, yet she believed she was doing the important work for the movement. Wow! That's exactly what Jonathan Cooey's been told. I love it. I love it. I have no doubt that this Larry Cook has been in meetings with some of the same meddlers that have been in my life or Jonathan Cooey's life. I've zero doubt. Zero doubt. It's exactly the same language. Exactly. I love it. It's invigorating to see. Her outgoing slander throughout her live video rant was saying that I threatened her originates from a phone conversation we had while she was in France when she stated she wanted me to step out of the movement so that not only could she be more dominant and visible in the movement, but also that any donations would be made would have gone to my campaign, would go to her campaign. Wow. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. I couldn't believe she would make such an outrageous demand. When I told her I wasn't going to do that, she escalated further and accused me of being in it for the money. Well, she did say that. I don't think she understood how the meddling works. If Brandy Vaughan lived, well, first off, I don't think anyone even would have allowed that, but if she had lived and if she got to see a little bit more or maybe hear from me or Jonathan Cooey, for example, how it works, she would have realized that Larry Cook wasn't doing it for himself. His job was to take money from her. Let me be clear. That was his job. Even if that money didn't go to him, the money could have gone, he could have thrown it in a sewer and burned it, given it to charity. It doesn't matter. He was being paid to take her money. You see? And that immediately implies that he's working for someone else. That was always his job. To distort her message, to drain her energy, to get her upset, to give her the perception that that she was being her resources being taken by someone who just wants the money. That was his job. And he was even willing to date her and probably have sex with her to do it. What an awful human being. It makes you wonder, if there was a fentanyl overdose, which I strongly suspect involved, which would have been exposed if there was a proper toxicology report, I wonder who got close enough to put the tainted gummy into the medicine cabinet. Do you really think someone that writes, publicly like this is incapable of doing something like that? Well, I mean, they're already capable of distorting the message and allowing people to die from needless transfections. They're already capable of distorting and ruining Brandy Vaughan's message enough so that people continue to get vaccines that they don't need and possibly get harmed from them with without even any recourse. He's already willing to do things that kill people. And I'm not advocating for her death to be reinvestigated. Even if she committed suicide. Even if she staged her own death, which I think is very, very unlikely, given the totality of the evidence that I've seen. Okay? It almost doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that her message was crystal clear. It was crystal clear, and she was already doing it. And everyone else is trying to hijack it, distort it, get in front of her, screw with her, take her resources, take her time, drag her down, cause her to lose sleep. That is what they were all out to do. That's exactly what has happened to me personally. That's exactly what's happened to Jonathan Cooey. I reflect back on the people that tried to get close to me and would just consume hours and hours on the phone. And at the time, I was just thinking, man, that person is a talker. Boy, but yeah, I guess they're an okay person. Yeah, they kind of support me. I guess I do need to talk to them 2 hours here and then 3 hours there. And then, as enough time goes by, you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, those were days that I didn't get to stream. Oh, yeah, those were days that I had 2 less hours to archive. I get it right now. The job was to drain. And hence, Brandy Vaughan went on to say something else that I found, again, it's exactly something that I would say, okay? She apologized in one of her videos for retreating and being isolated. And I know, because that's what I've done. I mean, I'm not living in isolation, but I have significantly drawn back and created walls around what I can see, what we'll do, because I've seen, like, wow. And when I did that, and I so appreciate what people send me, as far as evidence goes, but I mean, I beg you to understand, to have empathy for what I've seen and have gone through. And I'm so selective right now about, what I'm going to listen to, precisely because I've identified as even someone can provide what apparently is good evidence, which is precisely designed to take an hour here, 20 minutes there, go on a goose chase over there. It's all, every ounce of energy or money or time that can be taken is exactly what the goal was. And I think I'm going to be wrapping up soon. That's exactly what this monster's job was. Slow it down, to just chip away at it. Take time, drain a little bit of money, cause a little bit more anger. Imagine if she had a few less angry nights, sleepless nights, a few more dollars. She might have lived longer. She might have put up a few more billboards. She might have gotten a little bit more notoriety. It might have been impossible for her to die in her bathroom and to never be spoken about or thought about again if it wasn't for this monster getting involved in her life and draining as much as he did. You see? If she had gotten on a few more stages, a few more videos, a little bit more visibility, she might have been unstoppable. It was just taking the foam off the top. It was just enough to keep her under control so that when she did die, you know what? Even within 4 weeks, you have a round table of the 30-something broadcasters or whatever, the ripple effect, and there's still more. And already, yeah, Brandy Vaughan, that was interested, but please tell me, Judy Mikovits, again about those 5 horrible days that you were in jail because of Anthony Fauci. They've already moving on. I have some wonderful angels out there who I'm asking you to understand how this works, okay? And why we are responding the way we are, and why I can almost cry thinking about what had happened to her and what she went through, because this is exactly how it works. And it's not until you get burned that badly that you can actually see it. And why I'm going to keep talking about Brandy Vaughan going forward. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the understanding. Rest in peace, Brandy Vaughan. We're going to keep you alive, and maybe even we can help out learntherist.org someday. I don't know. I'm going to be talking, hopefully, with some of the people there, and we'll see what we can do. Take care, everyone, and God bless.